Hello there. Hello, everybody on the Tiki Talkie, on Twitch, on YouTube, and I am also on Discord. Nobody is in the call, but yeah. So if you're wondering on YouTube and Twitch what the decor is behind me, no, they are not googly eyes. No, they are not nipple pasties. These are the EKG little sticky things that I had all over my body yesterday. Assalamu alaikum. Um, Yeah, because I was in hospital because gravity decided it liked me a little bit too much. So if I'm tired, if I get tired, um, and I leave, yeah, they're not nipple pasties. Um, then I will end the live. But yeah, gravity likes me a little bit too much. And I will find out soon what actually happened, hopefully, because they've done MRIs and blood tests and everything came back clear, so it's kind of worrying. But I am here, I am going to be reading, and we are back on the Architecture of Modern Empire conversations with Arundhati Roy. And we are still on. We are on chapter 3 called privatization and polarization, and I went off on a little bit of a tangent last week, but then we stopped before. Before we stopped, we were going into the idea of the language of dissent being co-opted, and she was talking about how policy is written in a revolutionary kind of language. However, it is not revolutionary in the slightest. It is to appeal to the liberal conscience in saying, this is how humane we are being, this is what we're doing that is in keeping with the Sustainable Development Goals or the Millennium Development Goals or whatever the case may be. But they cannot be bothered about what's happening on the ground. And this is a lot of organizations that claim to care about people and the environment and all of these interconnected things, but they actually don't want to take down the systems that they benefit from. And that is why they co-opt the language of revolution, they co-opted the language of dissent, they co-opt all of the language that we try to use and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We are doing this for the people. It is by the people for the people. No, 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 no. It's by your workers and it's for you. And they try to appeal to people's niceties. And it's exactly what we were talking about when we were reading Abolition Feminism Now, where the language of dissent, not just dissent, but the language of care is co-opted so that they sound like they're doing something good, but they're not. So, question. There's a sequence in Damage in which the World Bank President James Wolfenson is visiting New Delhi, and he comes out to meet some demonstrators from the NBA. He utters a stream of platitudes about how he cares for the poor, how his focus is on alleviating their suffering and poverty. In the film, you say that you couldn't bear to hang around and wait for him to come out of his meeting to hear that. Answer. I was there when they blockaded the road. It was evening by the time Wolfenson was forced to come out. He arrived in a pinstripe suit like a cartoon white man coming to address the peasants of India. I couldn't bear to hear or see this played out again. At the end of the 20th century, to see the white man back again, addressing the peasants of India, saying how concerned he was about us. Policy is end state of inertia for movements. Yes. Only a few weeks later, I was in London and the release of the World Commission on Dams report, and Wolfenson was there. He talked about how he had met with people of the valley, Missing from his account were the police and steel separators, and the fact that he had been dragged out of office and forced to meet them. He made it sound like a genuine grassroots meeting. It's like how protesting has changed. It's to absorb the inertia, yes. Speaking in platitudes and dropping crumbs. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story about our president. Our president, consistently in government ever since the end of legal apartheid. His name is Cyril Ramaphosa. Intelligent man, brilliant man, but owned a lot of mines and a lot of shares in big mining companies, especially international mining companies like Lonmin. In 2012, there was what we call the Marikana massacre, or the Lonmin mine massacre, where miners were asking for a minimum wage of 12,500 Rand a month. 12,500 Rand a month is nothing in comparison to how long they've been working, what they're trying to feed entire families. Like, these are people who are trying their damnedest to just scrape by. 12,500 Rand is not too much to ask. Cyril Ramaphosa sent an email to, I have to say allegedly, even though I've seen the email, sent an email to the chief of police in South Africa. And because of the severity of the protests, how the atmosphere was brewing in this very violent manner, with tensions on all sides. And he sent an email to our police commissioner at the time and said, mow them down. On that Thursday morning, no, Thursday afternoon, 34 people were killed in the largest single massacre since Sharpeville and the Soweto uprising. Yeah, that's our president. To this day, those miners' families have not gotten justice. So when he goes out, we call him Cupcake for a reason. Because he's a billionaire. Cupcake. That's what we call him. It's part of the reason I told him to go fuck himself to his face. Like, Mr. President, please kindly go fuck yourself. At least Carnegie erected libraries where he did. Yeah. Well. And yes, there are moments that I'm proud of our president, like when he met Donald Trump, but the bar is in hell and we are limbo dancing with the devil. So, yeah, we can't really talk about that. They like to make it seem as if they are engaging with grassroots organizations, they are engaging on the ground with people, they are engaging in dialogue, but in reality what they're doing is talking at people. They are not engaging in dialogue with the people on the ground. They never have, and they probably never will. So for the current state of things to stoppy, let's get a guillotine and start with the choppy. Question. There are some exciting things happening culturally in India. In addition to Damage, the documentary by Aradhana Seth, there's another one by Sanjay Kak called Words on Water about resistance in the Narmada Valley. Are you encouraged that these kinds of films are being made and seen? Answer. There are many independent filmmakers who are doing interesting work, But more important in India is that there is a vital critique of what is happening. For instance, in Madhya Pradesh, there is a huge and growing resistance to the privatization of power. Privatization of the essential infrastructure, water and power, is strangling the agricultural community. Mass protests, are building up. The move to corporatize agriculture, the whole business of genetically modified foods, pesticides, cash crops like cotton and soya bean are crushing the Indian agricultural sector. The myth of the Green Revolution is coming apart. In Punjab, the lands irrigated by the Bhakra Dam are becoming salinized and waterlogged. The soil is yielding less and less, and the farmers have to use more and more fertilizers. Punjabi farmers, once the most prosperous in India, are committing suicide because they're in so much debt. The WTO has now forced India to import rice, wheat, sugar, milk, all of these products which India has in abundance. The government's warehouses are overflowing with excess food grains while people starve. They're all being dumped. In Kerala, coffee, tea, and rubber plantations are closing down, laying off labor, or not paying them at all. Absurdity post-nihilism tells us to hold duality, the small wins amidst the fires. Yep. I mean, I agree. I absolutely agree. We have to hold on to the small wins because else we'll go mad. And this is the case everywhere. Now I want to tell you a little bit about monocultures. When our lands were colonized, there was huge biodiverse agriculture going on. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Western modes of farming did not suit the land. But they absolutely destroyed, decimated our local means of farming, our local means of... Oh, geeky, I love the name, by the way. I absolutely love it. The Roman Empire introduced monoculture in the Mediterranean, yes. These farming techniques do not work. Monocropping, monoculture, it doesn't work. All of the European methods of farming don't work where it's not... Seriously? You expect something to just work from there and like plunk it here and just it's going to work? No. But it worked in their favor. Because instead of having complete biodiverse agriculture like we once had, entire swathes of land are dedicated to one crop. And that could be sunflowers for sunflower oil. It could be coffee. It could be maize. It could be something that is not indigenous to our land. And everything that you see that is good that comes out of our countries are exported. There's a brand of grapes that are exported from here. We don't get that brand. We don't get those grapes. Somebody sent me a picture. Hey, this is a product of South Africa. They are better grapes than I've ever seen here. Because all of our best food is exported. Permaculture backyard gardens is the only way. I wouldn't say it's the only way. I would say it's a start. People plant chives instead of grass for lawns. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. I don't like lawns. That's why we have a butternut squash growing pretty freely in our garden. Question. In India, now there's a move toward Hindutva and more communal politics. This hasn't happened overnight. People point to December 6, 1992, when the mosque in Ayodhya, the Babri Masjid, was destroyed by Hindu fundamentalists. But it must have its roots deeper than just 10 years ago. Answer. It has its roots in the independence movement. The RSS was set up in the 1920s. Today, it's the cultural guild to which L.K. Advani and Vajpayee and all of these people owe allegiance. So the RSS has been working toward this for 80 years now. There's a link between religious fascism and corporate globalization. When you impose corporate globalization into an almost feudal society, it reinforces inequalities. Yes. It reinforces them. It doesn't take them away. It doesn't redress the existing inequalities. It just deepens them. The people who are becoming more and more prosperous are the ones who have had social advantages for many, many years. It's the kind of situation in which fascism breeds. On the one hand, you have the government privatizing everything, selling off the public sector in chunks, telecommunications, water, power, to multinationals. On the other, they orchestrate this baying nationalism, nuclearism. I've talked about this in my essays, Power Politics and Come September. Every time something is privatized, it is at the expense of the most vulnerable. She says here, when you impose corporate globalization into an almost feudal society, it reinforces inequalities. These deals never work for the people. They always work for the corporations, for the oligarchs. Question. Every day, the Times of India has a quote on the front page, and today it's from George Eliot. An election is coming, universal peace is declared, and the foxes have a sincere interest in prolonging the lives of the poultry. What do you think about elections as a mechanism for democracy? I ask because people have had enormous influence and impact outside the electoral system. For example, Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. They never ran for elective office. Oh, the fact that he mentioned Gandhi, she does not like Gandhi. Hey, Bod. It's good to see you. People like to invoke these kinds of names in talking about extra electoral figures. And yes, absolutely 100% necessary. I just don't think that the tokenization is quite, lands quite nicely with these names. So she answers, I think it's dangerous to confuse the idea of democracy with elections. Right there, off the bat. Elections does not mean democracy. The US is not a democracy. Just because you have elections doesn't mean you're a democratic country. They're a very vitally important part of democracy, but there are other things that ought to function as checks and balances. If elections are the only thing that matter, then people are going to resort to anything to win that election. You can only campaign in a particular constitutional framework. If the courts, press, and parliament are not functioning as checks and balances, then it is not a democracy. And today, in India, they are not functioning as checks and balances. If they were, Narendra Modi would be in jail. He would not be allowed to campaign for office. Several candidates would be in jail today, not to mention several senior people in Congress, in the Congress party, who ought to have been in jail from 1984 onward, for their roles in the massacre of Sikhs in Delhi after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. The good thing about elections is that, however unaccountable politicians are, at least every 5 years they have to stand for election. The bureaucracy and the judiciary are completely unaccountable. Nobody understands the terrifying role that the judiciary is playing in India today. And it's the same with the US. The Supreme Court is taking the most unbelievable positions. Its decisions affect the lives of millions of people, yet to criticize them is a criminal offense. Recently, the Chief of Justice in India, B.N. Kirpal, made an outrageous order the day before he retired. Out of that case, that had nothing to do with linking rivers, Kirpal ordered that all the rivers in India should be linked up in 10 years' time. Destroy the ecosystems, why don't you? It was an arbitrary, uninformed order based on a whim and nothing more. He asked state governments to file affidavits. They never did. The government of India filed an affidavit stating that the project would take 41 years at a cost of billions of dollars. This kind of decision is almost, if not more, dangerous than communal politics. Yet, because of the contempt of court law, nobody will question the court, not even the press. Everybody is scared of going to jail. By sending me to jail, think of what they did. I had 1 year criminal trial, for which you have a criminal lawyer, which costs an unimaginable amount of money. How is any journalist going to afford a 1 year criminal trial and then face the prospect of going to jail or losing their job? What editor, which journalist is going to take that risk? So they silenced the press, and now the courts have started to rule on vital issues like globalization, privatization, river linking, and the rewriting of history textbooks, whether a temple should be built in Ayodhya. Every major decision is taken by the court, and no one is allowed to criticize. And this is called a democracy? Whew. I love this woman so much. Anybody from Haymarket Books, please tell her. When journalists cannot do their jobs, you know you have a problem on your hands. Okay. When you have spent your lifetime on the front line of solidarity and resistance, it is up to the writers, the journalists, the artists to light a clear way through what we're seeing around us, which is inherently like just a bitter darkness. It is really about illuminating hidden structures of empire and revealing their workings so that we can resist them. Things like war, nationalism, fundamentalism, the increasing rise of fascism, like this neoliberalism that is fucking turbocharged. It needs to be countered with truth. And I think to an extent, imagination. And that imagination will never come out of electoral politics. We have to have the imagination. Thank you. We have to have the imagination and the heart to see a way forward, to see a way, to envision another world. To envision a world that has more to offer its people, and then to fight for it. It was Arundhati Roy who said to me back in 2018, you cannot fight for anything with any ferocity unless you love with an equal ferocity. And I'll let you sit with that one for a second. Thank you. When dissent is made illegal, like it's happening right now in the US. You have to ask yourselves, where do I stand? Am I going to toe the line? So here's the question. So you're saying that dissent is being criminalized? Answer. I'm saying that democracy has to function within a system of checks and balances. You cannot have an undemocratic institution functioning in a democracy, because then it works as a sort of manhole into which unaccountable power flows. All the decisions are taken by that institution because it is the one institution that cannot be questioned. So there's a nexus between judiciary and executive. All the difficult decisions are being taken by the judiciary, and it looks as if they are admonishing the executive and saying, you are corrupt. We are forced to become an activist judiciary and take these decisions ourselves. And if you speak to the middle class, they believe that the Supreme Court is the only one that functions properly, the only institution. There's a sort of hierarchical thinking that the buck must stop somewhere. They like the fact that the Supreme Court is so supremely unaccountable. The contempt of court law is so draconian that if tomorrow I had documentary evidence to prove that a judge was corrupt and had taken money from somebody to make a particular decision, I could not produce that evidence in court because it would constitute contempt. It would be seen as lowering the dignity of the court, and in such a case, truth is not defense. And the contempt of court law is a colonial one. It figures. It was created so that Indian people would not question the Supreme Court as set up by the British colonists. Look up if there's anything similar to that in the US, for me. Contempt of court sounds like trust me bro made policy. Yes. Very much yes. Carbon is the slut of the periodic table. My God. Sean, if you are in here, I fucking love it. I wondered what that would look like. The carbon is the slut of the periodic table. Do it. Okay, I need to warm my feet. Let me know if the sound is too much. He asks, are there non-governmental organizations in the country that are working on this issue? The issue of the autocracy of the court? Answer. It's an important political issue that we need to fight, but few have understood it yet. The business of NGOs is an interesting one. I'm not a great fan of them. Many are funded by various Western agencies and end up functioning like the whistle on a pressure cooker. They divert and sublimate political rage and make sure that it doesn't build to a head. Eventually, it disempowers people. Absolutely 100% correct. And that is exactly what the authors are saying in Abolition Feminism Now. Thank you. My back is hurting like crazy. Question. In the first interview we did in early 2001, you described India as two separate convoys going in different directions, one into the digital future of a promised land of glitzy electronic things, and the rest of the country, the poor, the anonymous, going in the other. Since then, do you see those convoys coming closer together, or are they getting more and more distant from each other? And that is an excellent question. The way that the machine of neoliberal capitalism works, this is, she says, that distance has to increase. If what you have to plow back into the system is always profit, obviously that distance is going to get larger, just mathematically. Whoever has more makes more and takes more, and makes more and takes more. Eek. I mean, that's self-explanatory, really. Question. Tell me about the current situation in Narmada. It seems that despite the heroic efforts and sacrifices that the NBA and its members and supporters have made, the dams are going through. Is that assessment correct? Answer. Construction on the Maheshwar Dam has been stopped for now, but the Sardar Sarovar is inching up. That part of the anti-dam movement has really come up against a wall. The question has to be asked. If non-violent dissent is not viable, then what is? If reasoned non-violent dissent is not honored, then by default you honor violence. You honor terrorism because you cannot just put this plastic bag over the head of the world and say, don't breathe. Across India, insurgents and militants have taken over great swathes of territory where they just won't allow the government in. It's not just Kashmir. It's happening all over. Andhra Pradesh, parts of Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and almost the whole of the Northeast, which doesn't consider itself a part of India. My Nani's family is from Bihar. They were always troublemakers. Question. Do you see the possibility of the NBA extending itself beyond its current lifespan into a more national movement of resistance? Could it be a model that people could emulate? And that's why I didn't discuss the previous question or the previous answer, because this is important. People in cities think that the movement has lost. In one sense, they're right, because the Sardar Sarovar Dam is going up. But if you go into the valley, you'll see great victories of the movement, which are cultural, empowering. People know they have rights. In the Narmada Valley, police cannot treat Adivasis, and in particular Adivasi women, the way they do elsewhere. These are great and important victories. This section of the NBA that was fighting against the Maheshwar Dam are younger activists in the valley. They have expanded their operations well beyond and are fighting the privatization of power in the whole state of Madhya Pradesh. They are spearheading the anti-privatization movement. And it is important. That is why I'm linking these two questions. She says, if reasoned non-violent dissent is not honored, then by default you honor violence. And the fact that in the Narmada Valley, Adivasi women cannot be touched is indicative of how movements can actually make a change. When people come together in solidarity. If people are coming together in solidarity for the well-being of all people, this kind of empowerment gives people agency, it gives people a voice, it gives people a space. And that understanding of that extent of solidarity cannot only be rooted in nonviolence. Because how do you fight a violent system, an inherently violent system, with nonviolence? Because nonviolence always protects the state. The anti-privatization movement, we'll get to that in a bit. Let's see. I am very tired. This is a fucking long chapter. We are on page 51 and it ends at page 79. So I'm going to read until the next logical break. Question. Do you see the possibility of the NBA extending itself beyond its current lifespan into a more national movement of resistance? Could it be a... No, I already read that one. Do you see any opening for resolve in the conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir? The Indian Prime Minister has said Kashmir is ours. They, presumably the Pakistanis or Kashmiris, will never get it. The decision has been made. Tens of thousands of Kashmiris have died. It's a militarized state. There's martial law, suspension of the constitution. You know better than I do about the human rights abuses that go on there. Answer. Kashmir is the rabbit, and the governments of both India and Pakistan pull out of their hats whenever they're in trouble. They don't want to resolve the conflict. For them, Kashmir is not a problem. It's a solution to a problem. Let's never make the mistake of thinking that India and Pakistan are searching for a solution and haven't managed to find one. They're not. Because if they were, you would not hear the intractable statements like this, absurd statements being made. After the nuclear tests in India and Pakistan concluded, the issue of Kashmir has been internationalized to some extent. That could be a good thing, and it takes upon itself to impose a solution. But you would not discuss human rights violations in Kashmir. There were only these militants who were shot in encounters, Pakistani terrorists and so on. That changed. Now with the election, the dislogic of Farooq Abdullah and the Mufti Muhammad Saeed coming in, I sense a slight break in the refusal to admit what is really happening in Kashmir. I hear people asking questions about its status. I hear more people saying that maybe Kashmiris should be consulted instead of this being made to seem like an issue between India and Pakistan. Azadi. Kashmiri Azadi. If you don't learn anything else today, learn that phrase, Kashmiri Azadi. Freedom for Kashmir. The first step toward a solution would be for India and Pakistan to open up the border, to allow people to come and go. If you think of the world as a global village, a fight between India and Pakistan is like a fight between the poorest people in the poorest quarters, the Adivasis and the Dalits. And in the meantime, the zamindars are laying the oil pipelines and selling both the parties weapons. Question. You're from the southwest of India, Kerala, and now you're living in the north. Language, music, food. There's a completely different vibration between the north and south. Also, it seems that the communal tensions in the south are much less than in the north. Am I misreading that? Answer. Kerala has the highest number of RSS cells now, but so far you're absolutely right. The BJP just haven't managed to get a toehold in the electoral political sense, but they are very hard at work. The first time I ever saw an RSS march with all these men in khakis was this year in Kerala when I went to court. I was shocked to see them marching in the gloom. It put a chill into my heart. When you see people marching in the streets like that, it's terrifying. Thank you, Everett. The last time I saw marches of people, of fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, was in 1989. And then again in 1992, but not as big. It is chilling. And unfortunately, that's where I'm going to stop because having been to the hospital yesterday, I am Not doing well. I'm tired and I need to sleep. And I need to rest at the very least. So I'm going to head out now. And please, if you can, I know that I have not mentioned it once today, but I do these readings for free. So please, my goal is $90 for today. If you can, please donate to the PayPal link in my bio. Oh, my head is swimming now. And I shall see you all another time. Maybe tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully I feel better tomorrow. But please, 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 if you can, complete that tip goal, that would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm just really fucking tired. Remember, drink water, eat your meds, take your meds, eat something. Remember to smash the motherfucking patriarchy, eat all the white men, and remember to be kind to yourselves. And Everett is here saying practice self-care. While we know that you cannot self-care your way out of systemic oppression, you can. It says gifting suspended. Oh well. Yeah. While you cannot self-care your way out of oppression, you feed your oppressors to the land, and then go wash your hair. Because, yeah, you take care of yourselves. Self-love is a radical act. Keeping yourself alive for the movement is a radical act. So, yeah, I shall see you hopefully tomorrow. Bye.